Hello, everyone. I thought I would review the Shakespeare play Richard III. Now, this edition is a version printed at Yale, I think from the 50s, that I found in a thrift shop, which is very interesting. Now, of course, Shakespeare's Richard III is a historical tragedy that was written, I think, sometime in the 1590s. And of course, Shakespeare uses a very complex, very poetic language. He uses that in all of his plays, which I find to be very enriching and very enlightening, and that's why he's one of my favorite writers. But of course, Richard III is, at first, he is a scheming duke who's trying to seize power for himself. And even though he's a hunchback and is somewhat grotesque in the way he behaves, he compensates for that by trying to be very eloquent and very charming. For example, one of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite scene in the play, is early on when he tries to seduce a woman named Lady Anne, whose husband Richard III killed, and at first she's very much against him and his calling him names and wishes him dead. But over the period of just one conversation, he's able to charm her enough that she's willing to marry him. And I think that's a very interesting scene, the way that he's able to seduce her with flattery and how, in some ways, easily she becomes corrupted by him. And so I really enjoy that scene because of the way he's able to beguile her sensibilities. But of course, it's a tragedy, and most Shakespearean tragedies involve a character who has some kind of weakness or hubris that helps them for a time, but ultimately they end up being defeated in the end by their own insecurities, by their own hubrises, which of course this happens in Richard III, like it happens in every other. And by the end of the play, you have Richard III who loses his horse in battle, and he's wandering around. I'm sure some of you have heard the phrase "horse, horse, my kingdom for a horse," and in the end, he becomes quite loathsome and quite pathetic. And in that sense, Shakespeare was a great thinker when it comes to morality and justice, which is why he remains one of the best writers in the English language. So I hope you got something out of this review.